Hi everyone, welcome to M-Coach Web Sharing Series. Today we will be sharing on implementing effective HSE training evaluation strategy. Let's look at the topics. First, why we have HSE training. You might have different reasons for having HSE training for your organization. We are not going to go deep on the topic. What we would emphasize is the importance of training in the aspect of management system. After clarifying the reasons for having training, the next question is, how do we know to what extent we have fulfilled the aims? We know that we wanted to achieve something through the training, so did we achieve, or are we at the right direction going towards our aims? In order to know that, what models or tools are available to assist us in conducting training evaluation? In this session we will be sharing a number of tools models available in the training industry. And out of these tools, we will be discussing one of them in more details. Last but not least, we will demonstrate how we can plan and implement the evaluation model in an actual example of training. If you have any questions, you may leave your comments under the video. So, what are the reasons to have HSE training in your organization? It could be fulfilling legal and other requirement, improve workers' competency, influence behavioral change, or to improve HSE results. All these are valid reasons. What we would like to add on is the importance of it in the aspect of management system. First we look at ISO 45000 standards. These are important elements in the system. As we can see, training is one of them. Next we look at ILO guidelines on OSH/MS. Under the organizing element, training is a requirement. Then we look at process safety management or PSM. Training management is one of the elements. Since we based in Malaysia, now we look at guidelines on OSH/MS, published by Department of Occupational Safety and Health, or known locally as JKKP. We can see that in the guidelines, training is also one of the elements. In fact, other elements like HIREC, emergency response and accident investigation also require training before they can be done effectively. If we look at the guidelines in details, it mentioned that training should have as one of its critical components, a method of measuring the effectiveness of the training. Evaluation will help employers or supervisors determine the amount of learning achieved and whether an employee's performance has improved on the job. In other words, the importance of training evaluation is specifically spelt out in the guidelines. From all the examples, we are confident to say that training is a fundamental pillar in all safety and health management systems. Since it is a pillar, and there are other pillars in supporting the system, just like picture here, training should be managed with optimized synergism with other elements, and not to be viewed as independent activity. Training is not the objective by itself, it's a tool to achieve objectives set in safety and health management system. So, how do we know that our training is heading to the right direction, and where are we now as compared with the intended results? The answer is, by having training evaluation. Knowing that training evaluation is important, so how we can do it? In training industry, evaluation methods have been long established. For example, we have goal-based training evaluation method. Some examples are Kirkpatrick model and return on investment model. Then we have system-based evaluation method. For example, CIPP, IPO and TVS. In terms of systemic evaluation approach, we have formative training evaluation, summative training evaluation, confirmative and meta-analysis. And we have many others like classical, scientific, comparative, overall judgment, decision-making, user-centered, goal-free and responsive training evaluation. You can always Google to get more information. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. In this session, we will talk a little bit more on Kirkpatrick model, which was initiated by Mr. Donald Kirkpatrick. Kirkpatrick model divides training evaluation into 4 levels: reaction, learning, behavior, and results. Let's look at level 1, reaction. Level 1 measures responses from participants on how they felt about training. Most of us have probably experienced it before. Normally by the end of training, the facilitator will hand out an evaluation form. Trainees are asked to rate how is the trainer, how is the training content, or even how is the training environment and so on. This can be done by paper handout, or short interview with training after the session, or conduct a feedback survey online. This is the feedback on the training session. You may wonder what is the relationship between the training venue with the training effectiveness. Sometimes we say better engagement, better learning. Let's imagine you are getting a great trainer from overseas. You put him in a 5-star hotel, and the training is in the conference room. All meals are buffet style by the hotel. It looks like the logistic arrangement is conducive for having the training, but somehow the conference room is too cold for most of the participants. Therefore, you can see participants going in and out from the room, either going to washroom or taking a break. In this case, the training environment will definitely affect the training effectiveness. Similarly, it happens to online training as well. Let's say you get an experienced trainer where he has a lot of information to share, but somehow he is too relying on PowerPoint presentation. So he started the title slide on 9 o'clock, until 5 o'clock flip out the thank you slide. There is no interactivity in between. In this case, there is not much engagement and therefore losing participants' focus, and eventually affects the training effectiveness. Feedback gained in Level 1 evaluation can be used as opportunity for improvement so that we can have better engagement in future session. Now we look at Level 2 evaluation on learning. In this level, we measure how effectively the information was absorbed by participants. Most training has teaching element, where we convey new information to trainees, hope that they will apply the knowledge after the training. Level 2 evaluation is to assess to what extent this process has taken place. The evaluation may happen a few times during the training, so that necessary adjustment can be done to ensure trainees have acquired the knowledge as intended. Common ways to do it include giving out a quiz or exam. If that's a hands-on knowledge, you may consider asking trainees to demonstrate. For some training like accident investigation, you can get participants to do case study and present the outcome by using the methodology taught in the training. Some training may use pre- and post-test to compare the results. Next we go to Level 3, Behavior. This level of evaluation measures the degree to which participants' behaviors are influenced by the training and applied knowledge in their jobs. HSE training is normally not only about what trainees know, but the intended outcome is whether they really do it in their job. The purpose is to assess how much workers have changed their behaviors as a result of training. This level of evaluation happens after the training session. Sometimes we allow a grace period for trainees to adopt to the new behavior. This is also the time where we can get feedback from the field on potential obstacles of implementing something new. After some time, then we can start our evaluation. Examples on how we do it include on-the-job observation and 360-degree interview. 360-degree interview means we get input from the trainee superior, peers and subordinates. For job performance-related behaviors, the superior might be giving valuable input. But there are also some other behaviors where the superior's input may not be sufficient. For example, if you send an employee to anger management training, he might not show uncontrolled emotion to the superior, but other peers and subordinate might be able to tell whether he had changed after the training. This is called 360-degree interview. Then Level 4, Result. Level 4 measures the impact training has had to the business. It's regarding return on investment done for the training. There is important consideration in resources allocation. For example, we might have spent a considerate amount for a training, then how do we convince management that we want to do refresher after some time? If we can show measurable results, then we are more convinced the money was well spent, and that refresher training should be conducted. We can do Level 4 evaluation by comparing business results. For example, sales figures, number of customer complaints, first pass yields and so on. For HSE training, we can compare figures like accident rate and number of medical leaves. If you can quantify cost of accident, you can also use it. As summary, we have discussed the 4 levels of the Kirkpatrick training evaluation model. Level 1 is to gauge whether trainees like the training. Level 2 is to assess whether they have learned what we want them to learn. Level 3 is to evaluate if trainees change their work behaviors as a result of training. And Level 4 is whether the training had improved business results. We have different tools in helping us to do the evaluation. These include questionnaires, interview, focused group, assessment, work review, observation program, action plan, business results and KPI. Now we look at how we plan for training evaluation. As mentioned in Guidelines for OSH-MS by JKKP, a plan for evaluating the training session should be developed when the course objectives and content are developed. It should not be delayed until the training has been completed. Which means that when we plan for a training, the evaluation method should have been given consideration and defined. Normally we plan for training because there are performance gaps. It could be finding in audit or inspection, accident, legal non-compliances or so on. That means we want to achieve something, but we have not achieved yet. We hope that training will close the gap. Subsequently, some will straight go for conducting training, and distribute a feedback form at the end of training as training evaluation. Under M-Coach Training Development Framework, we will first get our clients to have clear picture on their intended outcomes. This is done through a series of questions. This is very important because the input is used to design the training evaluation. In other words, the evaluation method is planned in this stage, and planning of training is done along the way. Then we will decide the training methodology with the client. Some training are best to be done on field, some can be done face-to-face or online, and some are mixture of both. It is also possible that on-the-job training or mentoring appears to be the best way. After deciding the best methodology, then only we develop training materials. For example, on-the-job training and online training both will have different training materials. Next is the process of what we call seeding. This process will at least double up the training effectiveness. Perhaps we can discuss further in coming web sharing series. After doing all the planning, then it comes to actual training session. In the training, remember your engagement. All engagement activities have their reasons. They help to improve the training effectiveness. So, plan for it and present it. Not to forget is the feedback loop. HSE training is adult learning. How we encourage, receive and handle feedback should be planned ahead and implemented during training. If there is learning element from the training, conduct assessment to confirm your messages have been understood by trainees. And lastly, conduct post-training evaluation as plan. Remember, training effectiveness is by plan. It is not a default outcome from the training session. If we look at the 4-level Kirkpatrick model, you probably notice that we start from clarifying the intended results, then we define the behaviors that promote the results, followed by planning the learning content, and lastly how we create conducive environment that empowers the learning process. Now we look at example of the evaluation process. Let's say we have a training on proper donning OD safety harness. We will use Kirkpatrick model as our basic to work out the evaluation process. For level 1, reaction. We can hand out a survey to participants, asking them questions like, did the training address the needs in your work? Was the training an effective use of your time? Did the training cover sufficient information? Did the training style work for you? Would you recommend others to attend the training? What is your overall satisfaction on the training? Any recommendation to make the training better? As you can see, beside checking the satisfaction, we also determine the relevance and engagement level. For example, instead of asking how was the trainer, we ask whether the training style worked for you. We also ask if the training an effective use of your time. All these questions are user-centered rather than trainer-centered. We also ask for their recommendation for future improvement. At the baseline, it's about how they perceive the training. If you go for level 2 evaluation, you can use quiz, or get participants to demonstrate wearing safety harness, then you have your critical checkpoints to verify if they have done sufficiently. You can also use questionnaires, asking them whether they feel they can apply what they learned to their work. Did the training motivate them to use body harness? Any topics from the training they still don't understand? These questions are checking competency, motivation and confidence gained from the training. If you go for level 3 evaluation, you can have an observation program to do that. You can incorporate it with existing program like routine inspection, management walkabout, audit and so on. Bear in mind, a well-designed program will also reveal systemic obstacles which hinder new behavior. Lastly, if you go for Level 4 evaluation, you may compare KPIs related to the training. For example, reduction of accident due to falling from height or reduction of serious injury due to falling from height. Remember, a sound statistical procedures shall apply to determine correlation. Next, we look at how you can present your training results. If you use Level 1, there is not much input, and you probably will present number of training done versus planned. If you use Level 2 evaluation, you can tell the number of certified employees who had passed assessment over the time. If you deploy Level 3 evaluation, you can summarize percentage of at-risk behavior compared with safe behavior. And if you use Level 4, you can tell reduction of accident as compared with previous results, or return on investment for training if cost of accident is quantified. Remember, difference in reporting will determine whether you are an executor, specialist, or leader. An executor execute training session. A specialist solve problems, either competency or behavior problems in our case. And a leader adds value to the business. Some key takeaway from the sharing session. First, HSE training is a tool to drive management results. Therefore, it should be designed to serve purposes of management systems. Next, evaluation is a tool to gauge where we are compared with management system targets, as well as providing inputs for improvement. And lastly, decide the evaluation method as appropriate to each training. Implementing effective HSE training evaluation strategy is part of developing results-oriented safety and health training program. This is a 2 days in-house training program. Our consultant will walk through with you on the 10 steps framework for planning an effective safety and health training program. You will then able to plan and execute high-impact training program with measurable results. If you were to outsource any training program in the future, you will also be able to differentiate if a training program is tailored to your organizational needs, or you are getting a generic program from the market. If you want to know more about the training, contact us now at info@mcoach.my. That comes to the end of this sharing. Thank you everyone and see you in the next session.